This is VSiN, the sports betting network. This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Money Moves on this Thursday afternoon. You're in the right place on VSiN, the sports betting network. He's Joe Ceraulo. I am Ben Stevens. Still a ton to get to here in this second hour. Our guy, Greg Hoops Peterson, on a day that is mid-major basketball focused with 57 D1 games, but not a top 25 team in action. We'll have you ready basically for the entirety of the betting card. You will want to lay down wagers on teams you have never heard of or could not point to on a map, but we'll make sure to win you some money on this Thursday. Joe, there's a lot to get to in the NBA. We've got 3 games on this final day before the All-Star break this weekend in Los Angeles, and truly moments away from puck drop for Team USA as they start the men's Olympic hockey tournament in a matchup against Latvia, the Americans, a hefty favorite. So, hour 2 here on this Thursday on Money Moves, but plenty still to do.
Yeah, and you look at this USA-Latvia matchup, Ben, look, admittedly, I couldn't name 1 or 2 players on this Latvia national team, but what I do know is that this USA team is going to blow their doors off. You heard Jonathan Davis, hour 1, essentially call this a tune-up for the Americans, and that total sits at 6.5. But to JD's astute point, you can play a team total for the U.S. instead of the full game total. And if you knock it down just 1 mark to 5.5 goals, you're getting that over at plus money instead of laying juice. Now, I haven't shopped around at every book, but at DraftKings, you can take the Americans over 5.5 goals at plus 130. Now, normally, if this was a college football game, I would say, maybe they take their foot off the gas in the fourth quarter and don't want to embarrass the other team. But goal differential matters when it comes to seeding for the Olympics. So if you have a chance to win a game 8-0, you're going to win a game 8-0. I think instead of the full game total at 6.5, you take the Americans over 5.5 at plus 130.
I like that look a ton, Joe. We saw Team Canada blow out the Czech Republic, who JD also said a really good team to contend for a medal in Milan. Yeah. The Canadians winning 5-0. It is about dominance here in the Olympic hockey tournament, where we anticipate the Americans and the Canadians meeting up once again in that gold medal game. Hour number 2 on Money Moves. And to start this second hour, this segment of Money Moves is sponsored by Upside. Turn your gas purchases into real cash back with the free Upside app. Download Upside now and use promo code SPORTS for 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. Again, just moments away from Team USA, a minus 2,400 money line favorite against Team Latvia. Another play that JD, who is a lot more of an astute hockey mind than either Joe, especially myself, highlighted. Tage Thompson, plus 190 to tickle the twine in the back of the net. He has the 4th best price at 8-1 to be Team USA's leading goal scorer in the Olympics. Jack Eichel, Austin Matthews tied for the shortest price at 4-1. Jake Gensel, who played his college hockey at Omaha, a 5-1 price, 3rd best number to be Team USA's Olympic leading goal scorer. Speaking of Omaha, Joe, let's talk a little mid-major college basketball action. We've got some Summit League games. You alluded to it earlier. We're going to give out some best bets before we go on this Thursday. But how about the battle for the top spot in the Summit League? North Dakota State, the Bison, in first place, look like a true mid-major that might be able to make some noise in March. But do not count out the Tommies from St. Thomas. Johnny Tower and his team playing at an incredibly high pace. They're 9-2 in conference play. They have covered in 7 of 9. St. Thomas visits Nebraska-Omaha tonight to take on the Mavericks. What was the number that you might consider laying on the Tommies?
I mean, Ben, on this one, I'd go alt line. I laid 4.5 last night at even odds. Right now, you're seeing 3.5 out there at your standard minus 110. Look, first off, I'm just going to say, as someone who grew up a St. John's Johnny's fan and is a St. Bonaventure Bonnie, I feel obligated to root for the St. Thomas Tommies, okay? We love a mascot that's just named after the saint of the Catholic school. But this team is so far superior to Omaha. I mentioned earlier, they're 6-0 against the spread as road favorites this year, which is a really good sign. It tells you that they don't succumb to a lot of letdown spots. But let's narrow it down. Let's look at their last 10 games. They've been a wagon. Their net rating is plus 17. That's 96th percentile in the nation over their last 10. Their offensive rating, also 96th percentile. But what travels more than shooting? Defense. They're 76th percentile in defensive rating, holding their, or rather on offense, their effective field goal percentage of 62%, number one in Division I hoops over their last 10 games. They're a well-rounded team. They shoot the absolute lights out. That's number one out of 365 universities. St. Thomas, minus 3.5, minus 4.5. Wouldn't shock me if they win this one by double digits.
I like that look a ton. St. Thomas really efficient on the offensive side. They play with a fast pace in Summit League action as well. Of course, it was Omaha last year that won the Summit League to earn their first berth to the NCAA tournament. As a man that got his start in his professional career in sports media as the weekend sports anchor and reporter, the CBS affiliate in Omaha, Nebraska, I have spent many a night watching UNO at the time basketball in Ralston Arena. 3.5 point spread, though, in favor of the Tommies. To me, that's the play here. 9-2 in Summit League action, covering in 7 of 9 games. Joe, I also think there's a correlation between when the offense is working for St. Thomas, they have gone over in 6 of those 7 covers in conference play. So it's a really good look. We'll have plenty more around mid-major college basketball. Even a trend from our producer, Luke DeVosta, that's been hitting at such a ridiculous clip, we'd all be in retirement if we had been following it for a 24-8 ATS trend as of late. Let's also talk some NBA action. Again, a triple header around the association tonight on the final night before the All-Star break in LA and in Los Angeles, but in the other arena from where All-Star weekend will be at the Intuit Dome, the home of the Clippers, Crypto.com Arena, the home of the Lakers, taking on the Dallas Mavericks. And of course, anytime you're looking at the Lakers, Joe, before we get to the break, we got to pay attention to that availability report. No Luka Doncic, no LeBron James, no Austin Reeves. In their last game against San Antonio, they got their doors blown off. But they're a 6.5 point favorite in that early line tonight against the Dallas Mavericks. And let's talk some injuries there. Cooper Flagg, a foot strain. He is out throughout All-Star weekend, will not take part in the All-Star festivities in LA. 6.5 point spread in favor of the Lakers. Can you bet it without truly knowing what that availability report is going to look like around 7 p.m. Pacific time?
Ben, I live a pretty free life. I don't live by a lot of rules. One of them, though, is bet the NBA live, not pre-flop. I just, I'm looking at these injury reports. No Flag, no Kyrie for Dallas, right? No Luka for the Lakers. By the way, we got robbed at the trade deadline with Anthony Davis going to Washington. No AD, Luka rematch here. I mean, LeBron and Reeves should be a go. And if they are, with no Cooper Flagg, you would think the Lakers can cover 6.5. But this is just not enticing to me, especially right before the All-Star break. Guys are checking out. You wonder, A, who's going to play, and B, with what kind of effort. The only thing on the entire, I say entire as if there's a lot, the 3-game board that caught my eye tonight is, frankly, this Utah-Portland game, because I don't see either of these two teams playing a whole lot of defense. And I'm seeing a total of 235.5 for two teams that are top 6 in terms of hitting the over this year. And I'm thinking over in Salt Lake City. But this Lakers game, should they cover? Yes. Will they? It freaking beats me.
They're a really good team when booked as a favorite. To Joe's point, sometimes you can look at the props and get a feel of at least who is expected to play. Both LeBron and Austin Reeves do have a points prop associated with their name for tonight. Nothing for Luka Doncic against his former team in Dallas. If they do not play or even are limited in the final game for Los Angeles ahead of the break, the acquired man at the deadline, Luke Kennard, just to score 10, just to get to double digits tonight, 10-plus points, minus 121. He was LA's leading scorer when they got the doors blown off by San Antonio a few nights ago. The Lakers 21-10 against the spread this year when booked as a favorite, the best of any team around the NBA that has been booked as a favorite in at least 10 games. You mentioned the Utah Jazz. There was a lot of people last night, Joe, in the 14-game NBA slate, not looking at the Knicks, not looking at the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Spurs, any of those matchups out east, but what they called the Tanking Bowl in Salt Lake. Utah hosting the Sacramento Kings. Tanking has become rampant once again in the NBA. We saw Utah a few nights ago sit Jaren Jackson Jr. and Lauri Markkanen, despite having a lead in the fourth quarter. The tanking crown last night, I guess Utah won the game by nearly 30, but Sacramento kind of gets the billing for the tanking Kings. They have now lost 14 straight games. They have the worst record in the association by 2.5. 121-93 last night. The Jazz easily covering as a 5.5-point favorite. The Kings have lost 14 straight, Joe. Their first game post All-Star break is against the Orlando Magic. If Sacramento loses that game, a 15-game losing skid would be the longest for the Kings in franchise history.
I mean, the NBA is just so lopsided, man, right? You look at, especially what's with all these trade deadline acquisitions who are now out for the year, right? Jaren Jackson, Utah trades for him, out for the year. Anthony Davis goes to our nation's capital, out for the year. I mean, the NBA really has an issue. It's a joke. It's why I think people like you and I are way more locked in and dialed in on college hoops this time of year. Don't get me wrong. I love my Knicks and I love the NBA playoffs. But you can't get me to sit down and watch a ton of regular season NBA action, man. The league has a real issue on its hand.
Yeah, it certainly does. And we'll see how it ends tonight with 3 games. The other game we have not alluded to just yet, Utah, by the way, a 7.5-point home underdog tonight against the Portland Trailblazers, the reigning NBA champs. The Oklahoma City Thunder back at home, a 12.5-point favorite against the Milwaukee Bucks. No Giannis Antetokounmpo for Milwaukee. But Cam Thomas acquired ahead of the trade deadline last week for the Bucks. 34 points last night as Milwaukee picked up a big win. Again, a lofty spread tonight at the Paycom Center in Oklahoma City. We'll have some NBA thoughts a little bit later on in the show. They have dropped the puck between USA and Latvia in the Olympic hockey tournament. On the other side of the break, we'll dive deep into college basketball. I have teased it a few times. Our producer, Luke DeVosta, with a trend, I'm not going to say that because that would have been a bad idea, that looks so good, it's got to keep on winning. We'll talk more about that on Money Moves up next.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools, but what they don't want you to know is you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. With VSiN Pro, you get access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back to a Thursday afternoon here on Money Moves. He is Joe Ceraulo. I am Ben Stevens, and we've said it a few times, but it bears repeating. 57 D1 men's college basketball games on this Thursday, but none feature a top 25 team. So let's educate everybody, Joe, on maybe some college basketball programs they are not all that familiar with, as everybody is diving back into college hoops at the end of Super Bowl Sunday and a football season. We will do that here. And we'll start with doing that from our producer's mind, Luke DeVosta, who has an incredible trend that has been so great in its last 32 instances. It is hitting 24-8 against the number. There's a matchup tonight in the Missouri Valley, a great mid-major conference that I believe everybody should always pay attention to, with a wonderfully branded conference tournament played in St. Louis known as Arch Madness. Tonight, Illinois-Chicago visits Des Moines to take on Drake. If you were to look at this line on DraftKings, or as we present it here, it's 1.5 in favor of the Bulldogs. But there's a couple of very smart metric platforms that break down this game and actually have Illinois-Chicago, the Flames, booked as the favorite. Bart Torvik has UIC as 1.5 favorite. Haslametrics has UIC as a 2.5-point favorite. Our own Hoops Peterson, with his analytics and power ratings, has Illinois-Chicago as a 1.5 favorite, and yet Drake is the favorite on DraftKings. Luke telling us that when those 3 handicapping services, using their own metrics, have one side favored and the odds maker have the other team favored, that's been hitting in its last 32 instances 24-8 against the number. So, of course, Joe, the only play tonight in the Missouri Valley, it's UIC as a slight underdog in Des Moines.
And it's a no-brainer, Ben. I mean, you look at this matchup here, and, you know, what the books are doing, they know what they're doing, right? Let's make a team like Drake that's got some name recognition from their incredible season last year, an ever so slight home favorite. people are going to hammer Drake, the public, who just see a short line and they see name recognition, and UIC is going to go out there and win outright. It's why I've got a money line at even odds, because Drake could not be a more different team from last year's. I mentioned earlier in the show the continuity of the Florida Gators and Todd Golden's Gators from last year to this year. Drake's the opposite of that. That Drake team that captured everyone's hearts a year ago, they're all in Iowa right now playing in the Big Ten, right? The coach had that incredible run from D2 to Drake, and now he's replacing Fran McCaffrey in Iowa. So this Drake team is vastly different. And how about their last 5 games? They ranked 360th out of 365 in defensive rating, and in opponent effective field goal percentage, they're dead last in the nation, 365 out of 365. This Drake Bulldogs team is allergic to defense. Illinois Chicago has been a damn good bet, 9-5 against the spread in conference play, whereas Drake's just 5-10. Illinois Chicago is dogs. I love them. Had them a couple Saturdays ago against Southern Illinois. They were dogs. They won outright. Was on the wrong side at Murray State last week, but that's because they were covering with 3 seconds left, and Murray State hit 2 free throws to put them to bed in the final 3 seconds. But Illinois Chicago has been right there in every game. They're going to win this outright. I love the trend. I love the play.
I love the trend, love the play, love when your own thoughts back up what the trends are telling you with some stats and metrics mixed in. UIC tonight on the road in Des Moines. Speaking of that, former Drake head coach Ben McCollum, in his first year in Iowa City, led Iowa to a 6-game Big Ten win streak, entering last night in College Park against Maryland, longest for the Hawkeyes in a decade. They were a 10.5-point road favorite against the Terps last night. Maryland won outright 77-70. The one best bet I gave out, Joe, on Money Moves on Wednesday was Maryland team total under 63.5. They scored 77. The first time this year Iowa has allowed an opponent to go over their season average entering the game. The Terps were averaging 71.8 points per game entering. Of course, they score 77. We'll get back on the right side of things, though, on this Thursday on Money Moves. My focus on the Missouri Valley as well, and the team at the top of the standings. Belmont, who is 12-3 this season. Go ahead, please, Joe. What do you got?
Ben, we've got one for the U.S. 5 minutes in. Have to make note. U.S. leads Latvia 1-0. Sorry, I'm into this Belmont game as well tonight, but we're 1 on our way to 6 at plus 130 on that team total over 5.5.
I'm trying to get a name here on the back of the sweater. Number 7 for the United States. Do we know the goals? Oh,
I think it's
Matthew's brother,
one of the
Bradley Tkachuk. Yes.
Yep.
So there you go. 5.5 in. Team USA draws its first blood at the Olympics in Milan. They lead 1-0 over Latvia. By the way, the other 2 teams in Group C, Germany and Denmark, have started. We talked with JD, Jonathan Davis, about the Germans being really the only test in this group for Team USA. The Germans on top early, 1-0 over Denmark. So Team USA up 1-0. Now a 4.5 goal number in terms of that puck line. Total still at 6.5. Team USA is now minus 15,000 to win this game outright on the money line. All right, back to Belmont quickly here.
You're going to lay 15 grand on that, Ben?
I think if it would make me some money, yeah, for sure. I'll take even a couple of cents of profitability. A win is a win, Joe. That is for sure.
Incredible.
All right, Belmont, the Bruins tonight in Missouri Valley Conference play against Northern Iowa. I talk often, Joe, when breaking down a college basketball game, whether it's side or especially total, about pace. UNI is the slowest team in the country. Of 365 D1 men's college basketball teams, they are 365th in terms of adjusted tempo. It's interesting to only see a 5.5-point spread here in favor of Belmont, 12-3 straight up in the Missouri Valley this year, with one of those 3 losses in OT against Bradley over the weekend. Belmont is the 3rd best 3-point shooting team in college basketball this season at 40.6% from 3. They are 2nd in terms of effective field goal percentage at 60.8%. But Northern Iowa, really good at defending the 3-point shot. In fact, best in the country. Opponents shooting worse than 27% against the Panthers this year. I lean with Belmont based on that slow pace, still expecting the offense to work for the Bruins. But it's a really interesting game that if Belmont does not cover, it's staying to the under because of that UNI defense being as prolific as it has been throughout this college hoops campaign.
So I'll reply to that in a second. It's 2-0 US. They wasted no time getting back out there. So a third of the way to 6 goals on the team total. To your point on Belmont, great 3-point shooting team. And for Northern Iowa, it is much more difficult to control the pace of play on the road than it is at home. If Northern Iowa can slow it down, that lends itself to a lot of things. It lends itself to unders. It lends itself, as unders typically do, to closer games, less blowout potential. So I could see them if they're able to hang around, if they're able to control the pace, rather, I could see them hanging around here. Belmont's tough to figure. I mean, at Bradley, I had them the other night, -1.5. They go to OT, they lose. They were on a winning streak prior. They're winning a lot of games. They're just not great against the number. I lean towards staying away here. Northern Iowa's on a hot streak. They've won 4 of 5. They've won 3 straight, including a massive 30-point blowout at Murray State. So while I like this Belmont team a lot, and I think they win the game, I don't know if I can get there on laying that many points.
Yeah, when you look at this Belmont team, again, maybe you don't know a ton about them. Casey Alexander in his 7th year coaching Belmont. They have won 20 games in every single one of those seasons. In fact, right here, right now, there are 3 D1 men's college basketball programs that have won at least 20 games in at least 15 consecutive years. Belmont, Gonzaga, and Kansas 1 win away from getting there. Oregon has won 20 games in 15 consecutive years, but probably going to finish with a losing record this year in year number 16 under Dana Altman. So we have
how about that?
Plenty of college basketball to break down. Hoops Peterson will join us in just a matter of moments as well. I'm sure he'll have a thought or two on this game in Nashville and probably give you a bet on a team you do not even know where they are located, but one that will win you some money. There's no reason to pay full price at the pump anymore. The free Upside app gives you real cash back every time you buy gas. Download Upside today and start earning on everyday fill-ups. Using promo code SPORTS and get 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank. Upside users are earning hundreds of dollars a year just by driving like they normally do. Cash out whenever you want, straight to your bank account or popular gift cards. Get started now with the free Upside app and use promo code SPORTS. Offers vary by user and location. See upside.com for terms. 57 D1 men's college basketball games all around the country tonight. We have talked about some of those teams at the top, Joe, when you look at the national championship odds. Michigan, despite winning by 12 last night in Evanston, actually moved back by a $0.50 from their number yesterday to cut down the nets, plus 450. Yesterday afternoon is now 5-1. They trail Arizona by a full $1. Of those heavy hitters at the top, which team have you been enjoying the most watching this college hoop season?
Man, as of late, there's no doubt it's the Florida Gators. And they came out looking shaky in November. I believe they had that rough loss to TCU right around Thanksgiving time. But the Gators in conference play asserting themselves, while other SEC teams that had high expectations like Alabama and Tennessee are fading. The Florida Gators are hotter than ever. I mean, what are they, an $8 odds-on favorite to win the SEC? It's absurd. I love Todd Golden's Gators.
And 16-1 to win a national championship for a second straight year. The man himself, Greg Hoops Peterson, joins us next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Money Moves continues on VSiN on this Thursday. He's Joe Ceraulo. I am Ben Stevens. A quick update from the Winter Olympic Games in Olympic hockey. Team USA in its opener against Latvia. Right before the break, we mentioned how USA added to its lead. Quinn Hughes should have made it 2-zip. They looked at it, called it offside call on Quinn Hughes. So just 1-0 for the Americans. And Latvia has equalized. We are tied at 1-1 about halfway through the opening period. Team USA is still a hefty favorite, minus 2,500 in the money line. Games total has bumped up to 7.5 live with some juice on the over at minus 120. We'll keep you updated on the Olympic hockey action in just a little bit. But now we head to the progressive guest line, because it's a huge day of college basketball, which means Greg Hoops Peterson joins us here on Money Moves on this Thursday. Hoops, we appreciate the time as always, but especially on a Thursday like this one. 57 D1 men's college basketball games, but not a ranked team in action. Greg, I feel like this is your area of expertise. I'm sure you are ready to deliver here on Money Moves.
Oh, absolutely. This is a day where there might not be a ton of sizzle. There might not be those teams where it's like, oh, this is a team that I think is going to make the Final Four, but there's a lot of stake. You can make the same amount of money here in some Horizon League action, some Big Sky action, as you were able to on Duke versus North Carolina over the weekend. So I love these games.
Money is green always. Greg, there was a game in the Missouri Valley that Joe and I were just breaking down right before you joined us. Belmont, the top team in the conference, 12-3 straight up, but losing an OT over the weekend to the Bradley Braves. Back in Nashville tonight, Belmont hosting the slowest team in college basketball in Northern Iowa, and it's only a 5.5-point spread with a total at 138 and a hook. What will you be looking at tonight in a battle for one of those top spots in the Missouri Valley?
I took a shot here on Northern Iowa. You mentioned it. This team is really good at making game slogs. And here's why I feel like you can't lay the 5.5 with Belmont. Let's say that this is a tight game. Let's say that Belmont needs to be able to hit free throws to be able to cover this number. Belmont, for as good of a shooting team as they are, they're a top 5 team in the country in terms of three-point shooting percentage. They're a bottom 30 team in terms of free throw shooting percentage. Like, that's one thing that I'll never figure out in college basketball. How do you shoot so well from three and so poorly at the free throw line? Like, their top scorer, Tyler Lundblade, shoots like 88, 89% at the free throw line. Nobody else can make free throws, and keep in mind, this is not the same Belmont team that they were a few weeks ago. Nick McClain, their main point guard, has been dealing with a little bit of an injury. And I talk about how good of a three-point shooting team Belmont is. You know what Northern Iowa does a really good job of? Top 5 team in the country in terms of bonus three-point shooting percentage. Give me 5.5 points here with Northern Iowa.
You know, Greg, this is great. I've got the USA on my TV screen right now at the Olympics, and I've also got USA in pocket. Not talking about the United States of America, though. The University of South Alabama. I've got a money line at Southern Miss. They opened as dogs. They have since flipped to favorites. My money line price is minus 115. In your estimation, am I on the right side? How do you see this one unfolding?
I made South Alabama 2-point favorite. I took them on the money line myself when they were an underdog because this is an absolutely dreadful matchup for Southern Miss. Southern Miss is a bottom 10 team in the country in terms of three-point shooting percentage. Guess what South Alabama dares you to do? Over 65% of opponents' field goal attempts come from three. And in case you're wondering how big of a divide that is from everyone else, nobody else makes you attempt more than 53.5% of your of your field goal attempts from three-point range. So South Alabama, they make you shoot threes. Southern Miss has not been able to shoot them all season long. And for South Alabama, they also don't give you free opportunities to be able to put points out on the board. Top 5 team in terms of fewest free throw attempts allowed on a per possession basis. They should be able to control the tenor of this game as well because they're going to win the turnover battle. South Alabama, 11th in the country in terms of fewest turnovers on a per possession basis. This Southern Miss team, 263rd. This just feels like an awful matchup here for Southern Miss. So I'm right there with you. I'm in on South Alabama on the money line, and I think that this is going to be a game that's going to be low scoring with South Alabama. Also outside the top 275 in terms of total possessions brain. So also took a shot on that under.
Joe and Greg on the same side. That's a beautiful thing here on a Thursday. Greg Hoops Peterson joining us on this Thursday on Money Moves. On the Progressive Guest Line, you can make sure that you are following everything that he is doing. He is VSiN's college hoops analyst. And make sure that you are following at @GUnit_81 on Twitter. All right, Greg, let's go from the Summit League, the Sun Belt. We've talked some Missouri Valley, and let's hit on the Horizon League as well. Tonight in Indianapolis, one of the best names in all of college hoops, the Norse of Northern Kentucky, a road favorite against IU Indy. Total in the 160s. How do you see this matchup playing out?
Yep, this has gone up a little bit since I did my write-up when it was like 162.5, 163.5, but even here at a 164.5, I still like that over. And for Northern Kentucky, I was willing to lay it with them. I set them as an 8-point favorite because IU Indy is a classic team that gambles for turnovers. They are 30th in the country in terms of turnovers on a per possession basis with regards to their defense, but if they don't generate a turnover, they're outside the top 345 in terms of both opponents' 2-point and 3-point shooting percentage. They really give it up there. And Northern Kentucky, really good on the inside. They're a top 30 team in terms of their 2-point shooting percentage away from them. And Northern Kentucky, they themselves are a team that's going to gamble a little bit for turnovers. Northern Kentucky, top 55 team in terms of turnovers generated on a per possession basis away from home, but If they don't get that turnover, they do allow opponents to shoot over 36% from three-point range or outside the top 330 with that regard as well. So I think that there's a plentiful amount of points to be had here. IU Indy, top 15 team in terms of total possessions per game. So like that over, and with Northern Kentucky at 5.5, I'm willing to lay it.
Greg, my Saturday nights, man, used to be filled with things like bottle service and shenanigans. Lately, they've been filled with Portland State basketball. Best covered team in the nation. They're in action in Flagstaff at Northern Arizona tonight. What's the play there? You laying 6.5 with the Vikings?
Hey, I mean, what sounds better than betting on Portland State, winning that money, and then using that for bottle service? So I think that you've got a great system right there. And Portland State, they've been able to cover all but 4 of their games this far this season. 6.5 is starting to get a little bit out there, but what I really like here is the over. Now, Portland State has actually been a good defense. They're a top 75 team in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis, but for Northern Arizona, they're actually a really slow team. They're outside the top 325 in terms of total possessions per game, but their games yield themselves to a lot of points because Northern Arizona has become a top 40 team with their three-point shooting percentage. They actually lost one of their top scorers in Zach Davidson earlier in the season, but Ryan Abelman, great name, shooting 39% from three, so he's able to get you some threes. And for this Portland State team, I think that they're going to pick apart a Northern Arizona team that at home is 348th. In terms of points allowed on a per possession basis, they're just bleeding points. Portland State relatively strong down low. Portland State a little bit of a shaky free throw shooting team, so I don't necessarily want to lay the 6.5, but that total's right around about 134.5. I took a shot on the over.
Find you another show that can do what we're doing right now. Summit, Sunbelt, Horizon, Big Sky, and Missouri Valley, and Greg Peterson delivering it all. Greg, you run the board basically every single day to find some value all across a college hoops slate. Is there another spot we haven't hit on yet that you want to win some money in tonight?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to be on Operation Fade Gardner-Webb. I was seeing Winthrop as a 20-point favorite, which sounds ridiculous. You're like, hey, why would I lay 20 to 20.5 points here with a bunch? But this Gardner-Webb team, if you look at their metrics, big, giant sea of red. Like, they are outside the top 350 in terms of points scored on a per possession basis, outside the top 350 in terms of rebound percentage, outside the top 350 in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis. And Winthrop, they brought in Kareem Rozier, a transfer from Duquesne. He's really been able to elevate this Winthrop team. They're much better at taking care of the ball. They become a top 85 team in terms of points scored on a per possession basis. They do a nice job of being able to take care of the ball. And then out there in the Big South as well, give me Charleston Southern, who I was finding overnight as a 1.5 to a 2.5 point favorite, which seems a little bit preposterous. You've got a Presbyterian Blue host team that is 335th in the country in terms of turnovers on a per possession basis. Now, Jalen Peterson, great name, has been good down low for them with about 7 rebounds per game, but Charleston Southern, top 35 team in terms of opponents' 2-point shooting percentage. Presbyterian really relies upon that interior play. This feels like a bad matchup for them. So out there in the Big South, I was willing to lay it with Winthrop, and I was willing to lay it with the Charleston Southern Buccaneers, now coached by Son Nimley, who was good for them back in the day as well.
Great stuff.
Greg, I mean, we joked about it, Greg, when we started the show. And we were listening to the rundown of what we would have on this Thursday. And we said, you might not be able to point to these teams on a map. You might not know what their team nickname is or where exactly that school even resides. But Hoops is going to have you covered. Greg Peterson, VSiN's college basketball betting analyst, getting you set for an awesome Thursday night with a focus on mid-major college basketball. Greg, as always, appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely. And in the early slate, New Hampshire. So that way we cover the entire country, laying 2.5.
There you go. With a final present tied with a bow to end it out. Greg, we appreciate the time. Thanks for being here on that progressive guest line. New Hampshire minus 2.5. What can't this guy do? Trying to get an update quickly on that Olympic hockey. Looks like the Team USA has scored their second goal of the game, but it's under review to make sure there's nothing nefarious here. We'll make sure to bring you that goaltender
interference potentially. Can we get some of these to count, please?
We're okay. We'll see if Team USA got that second goal on the other side of the break here on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back to Money Moves here on this Thursday afternoon on VSiN. He's Joe Ceraulo. I am Ben Stevens. Before we go, some best bets to end out this Thursday. And of course, we'll get you set one final time for some college basketball action. But an update from the Winter Olympics over in Milan, Italy. Joe, for the second time today in this opening period, in their opening game in the hockey tournament, it seemed as though the United States had scored their second goal. This one would have been the go-ahead goal to take a 2-1 lead over Latvia. But a coach's challenge has reversed the call with 4.5 minutes left in these first 20 minutes. Latvia and U.S. tied at 1 apiece.
I mean, you can't make this up. They've had more goals waved off than have counted. We're inside of 5 minutes to go. Now, the U.S. is threatening right now, but somewhere out there, Ben, there is a man dreading the fact that he is going to potentially have to tell his wife in 5 minutes that he had a lot of money on a first period money line.
We saw that money line get all the way up to minus 15,000 in favor of the Americans when they took the 1-0 and presumed 2-0 lead before that goal was disallowed, and now tied at 1-1 again. We're approaching the under 4 minute mark of this opening period. Total is 7.5. Hefty juice on the under. The 3.5 puck line spread in favor of Team USA, that was the pre-flop number as well, is still that live at 3.5 goals. But it's even money plus 100 if you want to take the United States to win this game by at least 4. So a little bit dicier or tighter than we expected in the opening period for Team USA's Olympic opener against Team Latvia. 3 games in the NBA. Let's make sure we hit on them before we go, Joe. The first one in Oklahoma City. The Thunder a 12.5-point favorite against the Milwaukee Bucks. Both teams victorious yesterday. Milwaukee beating Orlando without Giannis, behind 34 points from the newly acquired at the trade deadline Cam Thomas. OKC, nearly a 30-point road win in Phoenix, 136-109 over the Suns, covering as an 8.5-point road favorite. Back at home tonight, final game before the All-Star break for both, 12.5-point spread in favor of the Thunder. Anything that you like here or any thought to give on OKC and Milwaukee?
Man, this one's a stay away for me. You've got Milwaukee on a back-to-back. You've got the Thunder just 6-6 straight up in their last 12. Who's playing? And of the guys that are playing, who is mentally checked out with the All-Star break looming? You know, it's a weird, wonky slate, 3 games right before a week off. Nothing in this one intrigues me. But I will say, in that same spirit, let's take it over to Utah for the Blazers and the Jazz. When you talk about guys being mentally checked out, I think this is a great spot for an over. The number keeps coming down, by the way, which I'm having trouble making sense of. It was 238.5 earlier. Now you can get 234.5 out there by shopping around. But these are 2 teams that are top 6 in the association in terms of converting the over. Jaren Jackson Jr., who Utah just acquired at the trade deadline, one of the best defensive players in the league, out for the season. Again, it's who's playing, and then of the guys that are, who is mentally there. I don't think there's going to be a lot of defense in Salt Lake City.
Triple J acquired at the trade deadline, played a few times, but in the physical after that trade for the Jazz, they noticed a small growth in his left knee. He wasn't experiencing pain or it wasn't limiting him on the basketball court, but they have decided, as they are already looking forward to 2026 and beyond, that let's get that growth removed. Jaren Jackson Jr. having surgery is out for the remainder of the season for the Utah Jazz. Total coming down, spread working even more in favor of the Blazers on the road. It's now an 8.5-point spread at DraftKings. Our final of 3 tonight was supposed to be Luka Doncic against his former team, the Dallas Mavericks, with the number 1 overall pick, Cooper Flagg, in action. Luka's more than likely not playing tonight for LA. Cooper Flagg out through the entirety of All-Star weekend, dealing with a foot strain. LeBron James and Austin Reeves expected to play for LA. We'll see. It's still early here out on the West Coast, but a 6.5-point spread, Joe, in favor of the Lakers at home.
Yeah, this is one that we touched on earlier, and I said, look, the Lakers should, by every metric, cover this game. Will they? I don't like betting the NBA pre-flop. It's more of a live betting league for me. Maybe an Austin Reeves points prop. I would have to pull that up. I don't have it right in front of me, but no Luka. Dallas down a few guys. Maybe this is a spot where Reeves can shine and put up 20-plus points or so. So maybe look in that direction. Again, the Lakers should cover this number. It's weird right before the All-Star break, though.
A disastrous season for Dallas. They're 19-34, 15 games, sub 500, often been booked as the underdog. They have been profitable. They're above 500 in terms of the ATS record when booked as a dog. Nobody better in covering spreads as a favorite than that of the LA Lakers. 21-10 against the number this year, the best cover percentage of any NBA team that has been booked as a favorite in at least 10 games. Joe mentioned Austin Reeves. I'll look at another guy who you could describe as an exciting you-know-what. Luke Kennard, 10-plus points newly acquired for the Los Angeles Lakers. He scored 12 despite the Lakers getting thrashed by San Antonio just a few nights ago. Final day of NBA action before the All-Star break. Team USA on the power play against Latvia. We're under 2 minutes left. No goals on the power play. Still tied at 1-1. We'll update the Olympic hockey game in just a matter. Oh, looked like that was in the back of the net for Team USA. No.
Right? I thought so too.
And ricochets. That really looked like it was in. All right, maybe not. Still 90 seconds left in this opening period. Joe sweating out USA team total over 5.5. It looked like it was going to be an easy ride. We'll see. A lot of hockey left. A lot of hockey left, Joe, in Milan. Let's talk an area of expertise for both you and I, an area we want to get invested. College basketball tonight. A doubleheader of Big West action that has your attention. UC Irvine, 5.5-point road favorite in San Luis Obispo against Cal Poly. UC Davis, 5.5-point road underdog in San Diego against UC San Diego. What's the plays you like tonight in some Big West action?
Well, Ben, first off, take your pick. Either I can pick you up and we can go watch this game at UC San Diego, or you can scoop me up a little north of you and we can head up to San Luis Obispo, enjoy a nice glass of vino, and watch UC Irvine cover 5.5 at Cal Poly. Let's start right there in slow. UC Irvine, I mean, this game is a tale of two entirely different teams. Cal Poly, an offensive juggernaut, highest offensive rating in the Big West over their last 5, 90th percentile in that span in effective field goal percentage. But they don't play a lick of defense. They turn the ball over a ton. Nearly 20% of Cal Poly Mustang possessions over their last 5 games result in a turnover, and they allow a ton of offensive rebounds. UC Irvine, not a great shooting team, but they take tremendous care of the ball and they dominate the offensive glass. They're also one of the better defensive teams in the country. Give me the Anteaters to stifle the shooting of Cal Poly and cover 5.5. And then at UC San Diego, down the coast a little bit, I mean, they've been a fade. The Tritons, we talked about it earlier, right? How Drake is an entirely different team. They lost their coach. They lost some players. Same with UC San Diego, losing last year's coach to New Mexico and some players as well. They have been an auto fade in conference play, 4-9 against the number in Big West action. You look at where they rank in terms of offensive rating, their last 5 games in which they're just 1-4 straight up, dead last in the country. So you have Drake, who we touched on earlier, dead last in defensive rating last 5 games. UC San Diego, 365th in offensive rating. UC Davis, 8-5 against the number in conference play. They've got a net rating their last 5 of +6. UC San Diego's net rating is -10. UC Davis is also forcing turnovers in a top 10 percentile clip. About 18% of opponent possessions their last 5 games resulting in a turnover. Could be a long night even at home for the Tritons. Give me the points with the Aggies.
I love it, Joe. I have lost track of how many conferences we have hit around the country in college basketball today, but I'll close with my best bet here in college hoops tonight. It's a huge one in the Missouri Valley. We have talked about it a few times. Joe, Greg have highlighted how good Northern Iowa is on the defensive end of the floor. They are also the slowest team, 365 of 365 in D1 men's college basketball. They're also the best three-point shooting defense in the sport. Teams are shooting at worse than 27% from 3 against them, against the Belmont team that is 3rd best in the country at shooting the 3. I think they cancel each other out. Really tight game tonight in Nashville. Joe, I lean on the under 138.5. What's your best bet of all of them tonight in college basketball?
Best play of them all, man. We've touched on it before. Let's bring it home with the St. Thomas Tommies. You can get them now -3.5 at Omaha. I laid 4.5 at even odds last night. A perfect 6-0 against the number as road favorites. One of the most prolific, exciting offensive teams in the country. Last 10 games, an effective field goal percentage of 62%. Elite offensive rating numbers. Really good defensive rating numbers as well. They're the real deal. They're a complete squad. Tommies minus whatever number you want to lay.
Joe, I love it. Football season may be wrapped up, but if you can't tell, the betting calendar is just heating up, and VSiN Pro has you covered. March Madness is right around the corner, and the Major League Baseball season fast approaching. Now's the perfect time to bet smarter with VSiN Pro. Sign up today. You get daily best bets, real-time DraftKings and Circa betting splits, 24/7 video, plus all of our betting guides, including our MLB betting guide dropping February 17th. That's less than a week away. Get started today for just $9.99 or save 50% with an annual subscription. Don't miss the best stretch of the betting year. Visit vsin.com/subscribe. That's vsin.com/subscribe. He's Joe Ceraulo. I'm Ben Stevens. With everybody in the back, we appreciate you joining us here on this Thursday edition of Money Moves. Follow the money with Stormy Bonantoni and Jonathan Von Tobel. Up next.